Most people picture Scotland as castles, whisky, and isolated moors. But beneath those waves lies the secret to Western security, a 700-mile ocean corridor, the only gateway Russian nuclear submarines can use to enter the Atlantic. If that stretch falls, the supply lines from America to Europe could be severed in days. It is the reason Scotland became the Western world's most strategic stronghold and why its fate matters now more than ever. What makes this lonely choke point so indispensable? And just how close have we come to losing control over it? Stretching from the icy coast of Greenland past volcanic Iceland to the rugged highlands of northern Scotland, the GIUK Gap forms a 700-mile maritime corridor. On a map, it looks like empty ocean. In reality, it is a bottleneck, one that has shaped the fate of wars and the balance of power for generations. The seafloor here is anything but uniform. Depths plunge to more than 2,000 meters in places, forming deep troughs and hidden valleys. Submarines slip through these underwater canyons, shielded by cold water layers that bend and carry sound in complex ways. These thermal layers are known as the SOFAR channel. They can allow the faintest engine noise to travel for hundreds of miles or disappear entirely, depending on the season and the weather. In winter, cold Arctic currents sharpen the contrast between layers, trapping submarine sounds and making detection easier. Summer brings warmer surface waters, scattering sound and shrinking the window for sonar detection. The geography is unforgiving. Shallow sills and underwater ridges near Iceland and the Faroe Islands funnel all traffic into narrow, predictable lanes. Every vessel, military or civilian, must pass through these same deep water corridors. For navies, the stakes are absolute. The GIUK Gap is the only viable exit for Russia's Northern Fleet submarines based at Murmansk and Severomorsk. There are no secret backdoors. Control this gap and you control access to the Atlantic. Lose it, and from 80 to 90% of NATO reinforcements and supplies, everything moving from North America to Europe by sea, become vulnerable. The cold deep water is both a shield and a trap. Submarines can hide in the darkness, but they are forced to run the gauntlet. Every modern conflict plan, every calculation of risk starts with this strip of ocean. The map of the GIUK Gap is more than lines and numbers. It is the blueprint of Western security. In the early years of the Cold War, a new kind of battle began beneath the waves. The Soviet Union's growing submarine fleet, armed with nuclear missiles, threatened to slip undetected through the deep water corridors of the GIUK Gap. The question facing Western planners was simple: how do you hear a submarine in an ocean built for silence? The answer came in the form of the sound surveillance system known as SOSUS. Engineers and oceanographers worked in secret to lay a chain of underwater hydrophones across the ocean floor, stretching from Nova Scotia to the remote shores of Scotland. These arrays listened for the low-frequency hum of propellers and machinery, picking up sounds that could travel hundreds of miles through the SOFAR channel. At its height, SOSUS linked 20 shore stations and employed 4,000 analysts and technicians around the clock. They used a technology known as LOFAR, low frequency analysis and recording, to turn faint underwater vibrations into patterns on paper and screens. The work was painstaking, requiring patience and sharp ears. A retired operator remembers the tension of each shift. He remembers sitting in a darkened room, headphones on, watching the lines scroll by. Sometimes he caught a whale. Sometimes it was a Soviet captain testing his nerves. The breakthrough came on July 6, 1962. Operators at a Scottish shore station detected the acoustic signature of the first Soviet nuclear submarine to attempt the GIUK passage. The report triggered a flurry of alerts up the NATO chain of command. Patrol aircraft and surface ships scrambled. For the first time, Western navies could track a hostile submarine as it tried to breach the Atlantic's defenses. The event proved the concept technology could close the gap that geography left open. The Cold War maxim spread quickly through NATO command posts. A war could be won at the Fulda Gap, but it could also be lost in the GIUK Gap. SOSUS was more than a line of microphones. It was a wall of vigilance, manned by thousands listening for the faintest sign of danger. Its legacy endures in the infrastructure and missions that still define Scotland's role at the heart of Western security. Along the quiet shores of Garlock, a different kind of fortress rises from the Scottish mist. Faslane Naval Base, known officially as Her Majesty's Naval Base Clyde, is more than a collection of docks and warehouses. It is the beating heart of Britain's nuclear deterrent. Here, 4 Vanguard-class submarines rotate through a cycle of maintenance, crew change, and silent patrol. Each boat carries up to 16 Trident D5 missiles, and at least one has been at sea, unseen and undetected, every day since 1994. The base's location is no accident. The deep, sheltered waters of the loch allow submarines to slip beneath the surface just minutes after leaving port, heading straight for the open North Atlantic. A few miles west, hidden among the wooded hillsides of Loch Long, lies Coalport. 16 concrete bunkers, each built to withstand disaster, hold the nation's entire stockpile of nuclear warheads. The warheads are transferred from bunker to submarine under layers of security and secrecy. This pairing of Faslane and Coalport forms a single unbroken chain: storage, handling, loading, and deployment, all within a tightly controlled patch of Argyll. The numbers alone hint at the scale. Over 3,000 service personnel work here, joined by nearly 4,000 civilian employees. Hundreds of families have built their lives around the rhythms of the base. For the town of Helensburgh and the surrounding communities, the base is both an economic anchor and a source of quiet anxiety. As one longtime welder puts it, Faslane is our livelihood. If it goes, so do our jobs, our schools, everything. This is not just a military outpost, it is a permanent fixture woven into the landscape and the lives of thousands. The future of Britain's nuclear shield and the stability of the Atlantic Alliance depends on the continued quiet work of this hidden community. North of Inverness, where the land meets the Moray Firth, Royal Air Force Lossiemouth stands as the front line in Britain's defence against submarine threats. Here, 9 P-8 Poseidon aircraft are on constant alert, each one a flying command center packed with sensors, computers, and weapons. These planes are not built for show. Their mission is to hunt, track, and, if needed, destroy any submarine that threatens the safety of the North Atlantic. The Poseidon's strength lies in its reach. Crews can drop hundreds of sonobuoys into the sea, creating a web of listening posts across the GIUK Gap. Each buoy relays underwater sounds back to the aircraft, letting operators sift through the static for the telltale signature of a submarine's engine. When a contact is confirmed, the Poseidon can launch a torpedo capable of tracking a target through darkness and cold, before a hostile vessel even knows it is being hunted. Royal Air Force Lossiemouth has seen a transformation in recent years. A £470 million investment has turned the base into one of the most advanced anti-submarine warfare hubs in Europe. New hangars, runways, and operations centers support a force of 2,200 personnel. The pace is relentless. Crews train day and night to match the tactics of Russian Yasen-class submarines, which are quieter and more elusive than anything faced during the Cold War. The work is urgent. Every patrol is a race against time, a test of skill and technology against adversaries who know the value of slipping undetected into the Atlantic. In the words of one station commander, "We are the eyes and ears of the North. If we blink, the consequences ripple far beyond these shores." In October 2019, a silent contest played out beneath the North Atlantic. 10 submarines from Russia's Northern Fleet left their bases near the Kola Peninsula, slipping under the waves in coordinated motion. 8 were nuclear-powered, 2 ran on diesel. Their mission was to breach the GIUK Gap and slip into the open Atlantic undetected. For NATO, this was the largest test of its underwater defenses since the height of the Cold War. The Russian flotilla included some of the advanced boats in service. Among them, Yasen-class attack submarines armed with Caliber cruise missiles, each with a range of up to 2,500 kilometers. Bory-class strategic submarines carried nuclear ballistic missiles capable of striking European capitals from the relative safety of the Norwegian Sea. Modern Russian submarines are quieter than ever before, using advanced hull designs and pump jet propulsion to evade sonar. The Northern Fleet's strength, at least 36 submarines, now posed a challenge that demanded constant vigilance. For 2 months, NATO scrambled to keep pace. Over 40 patrol aircraft sorties launched from bases including Scotland's Royal Air Force Lossiemouth, Iceland's Keflavik, and Norway's airfields. Sonobuoys were dropped in patterns across the suspected transit corridors, while surface ships and satellites tracked every anomaly. Despite these efforts, 4 Russian submarines managed to reach the Atlantic, testing the limits of Allied detection. Norwegian intelligence officers summed up the episode with blunt clarity. The aim was to get as far into the North Atlantic as possible without being discovered by NATO. The 2019 exercise sent a message. The GIUK Gap remains a pressure point, and the technology of stealth and detection is locked in a race that shows no sign of slowing. Each new submarine sortie raises the stakes, forcing NATO and its allies to confront the reality that the contest for control is not history, it is happening now in the cold, dark waters of Scotland's coast. After decades of relative quiet, NATO's planners found themselves forced back into old habits. The United States Navy, which once kept 80 submarines in the Atlantic, now fields fewer than half that number, just 35 boats. The sense of urgency returned in 2014 after Russia's annexation of Crimea. By 2018, the United States had reactivated its second fleet, a command dormant since the Cold War, with a mission focused squarely on the North Atlantic. New P-8 Poseidon aircraft began flying out of Keflavik in Iceland, while the United Kingdom invested nearly £500 million to modernize Royal Air Force Lossiemouth. Denmark committed $2.3 billion to Arctic surveillance, and the Faroe Islands installed new radar systems to close the last gaps in coverage. Norway upgraded its frigates with advanced sonar, determined to keep pace with Russian submarine advances. Yet, for all these efforts, the question of Scotland's future looms larger than any single radar or patrol aircraft. In 2014, 45% of Scottish voters chose independence. The Scottish National Party has made clear its intention. If Scotland leaves the United Kingdom, all nuclear weapons must go. That means Faslane and Coalport, the only places in Britain capable of supporting the Trident deterrent, would close their doors. The United Kingdom government estimates the cost of building a replacement site at a minimum of £20 billion, with a timeline of 10 to 20 years. There is no obvious alternative. Every deep water port in England and Wales falls short on safety, security, or infrastructure. As the United Kingdom's Armed Forces Minister bluntly put it, we do not have a better site. Professor Malcolm Chalmers of the Royal United Services Institute has warned that relocation would be very difficult, if not impossible. American analysts are even more direct. One Washington think tank concluded, if the Scots go, you can kiss off keeping the 2 key strategic bases. From our point of view, it will really mean you are finished as a major power. You are done. The stakes are not just financial or operational. They cut to the heart of NATO's entire Atlantic defense. If Scotland demands Trident's removal, the alliance loses its anchor on the GIUK Gap. The cost is measured not only in billions, but in the vulnerability of every convoy, every cable, every lifeline stretching between North America and Europe. 97% of global internet traffic crossed the Atlantic through cables that snake along the seabed, many threading directly through the GIUK Gap. These fiber optic lines, no thicker than a garden hose, carry trillions of dollars of financial transactions, government communications, and daily messages. While navies track submarines in the deep, a quieter threat moves along the same routes. The Russian vessel Yantar has been spotted lingering near these cables since 2015. Western intelligence agencies believe Yantar's real mission is to map and potentially tamper with the arteries of the global internet. Its onboard mini-submarines can reach depths of 6,000 meters, well beyond the reach of most rescue or repair teams. In 2021, cable operators reported unexplained outages days after Yantar's presence was logged off the Scottish coast. Each incident raises the specter of deliberate sabotage, an attack that could cripple economies and sow chaos without a single shot fired. The risks do not end with cables. The Arctic ice, once a barrier, is retreating faster than scientists predicted. Projections now point to ice-free summers by 2035. As the polar cap melts, new shipping lanes and military routes are opening north of Scotland. Russian submarines and surface vessels can now approach the GIUK Gap from above, bypassing old patterns of detection. For NATO, this means another frontier to watch, one that stretches from the Barents Sea to the North Atlantic, with Scotland still at its centre. For decades, a line of tents and painted caravans has stood vigil outside Faslane. The peace camp, founded in 1982, remains a symbol of protest against nuclear weapons and militarization. Its residents have watched the world change. Cold War, thaw, and renewed tension, yet their message endures. The dangers are not only military but existential. As the threats multiply, the question grows sharper. Can any alliance guarantee security in a world where a single cable cut or a new Arctic passage can redraw the map overnight? Scotland's role, once defined by submarines and missiles, now extends to the invisible threads and new horizons that bind the West together and make it vulnerable. Right now, the fate of a continent's security hinges on a narrow stretch of Scottish coastline. As Russian submarine patrols reach Cold War highs and NATO faces renewed threats, that unassuming land becomes the linchpin for transatlantic defense. In a world where geography cannot be moved, Scotland's strategic weight is not just history, it is the present front line. What happens here will echo far beyond these shores.